Hey, what's up guys, Hardleg Joe here with the profile for my Rokket Burn deck, a beastly Boral build that boasts bountiful burns to beat borderline broken bustas. Not the best version of rockets out there, but perhaps the most fun version. If you just want to see this thing in action, check out the main What a Deck video, that's linked down in the description. There I'll be playing 10 duels against random opponents, showing it off. Otherwise here I'm just going to be going card by card, explaining what everything is and how it do. Starting with our monster lineup, we have 2 Exploderokket Dragon, 3 Absolute Staples, 2 Silver Bullet, 3 Manga Rokket Dragon, 2 Metal Rokket Dragon, 3 of that British girl from Overwatch, 2 Spell Trap Removal, 2 Shotgun Shells, 1 Filler, and 1 Rokket Tuna. For spells, we have 1 Foolish Burial, 2 more Foolish Burial, 3 Quick Lunch, 3 Pot of Rocket, and a couple Sectors of Boot Launching. For traps, we just have 3 each of Ceasfire, Cease Attacking While I Burn You, and Boral Behind the Doral. Our extra deck contains 1 each of Beals, Macho Man Randy Savage, Scar Left, Gaga Cowboy, a Gagagave Dragon, an Abomination, non-targeting removal, the OTK Machine, Unicorn Dylan, Wee Witch, the Quad Boral Experience, the Undertaker, and 2 of the Link That Searches the Field spell. The Link That Searches the Field spell! Side deck I'll go over later, though it's not really a side deck as much as it is a space for cards that almost made it in, but were cut for one reason or another. Now before I get into explaining this deck, it's worth mentioning that, at the time of recording, there is a Rogue Rokket deck making the rounds through meta tournaments. While that version is undoubtedly more powerful than this build, it doesn't really take advantage of the Rocket's unique playstyle. That's more of a combo deck based around building a huge board using a bunch of generic dragon support, much of which may be banned in the near future. Since the goal of What a Deck is to make fun, goofy builds that you can play at locals for months or even years without worrying about the ban list, I've purposely avoided most of that generic stuff in favor of a slower, more rocket-focused build. If you want to see the meta version and learn the combos, Simo has a profile over on his channel. Here I'll just be explaining rockets specifically and how they can be used to cheese out wins via unexpected burn damage. With that disclaimer out of the way, let's get into this. The deck we have here is actually fairly simple. Rockets make up most of it, and most of the rockets have a pair of similar effects. First, if they are destroyed and sent to the graveyard, then at the end of the turn, you can summon a rocket from your deck with a different name. Second, if they are targeted by a Link monster's effect, they destroy themselves and do a thing. This one lets you send a spell trap to the graveyard, this one sends a monster, this one lets you look at your opponent's extra deck and banish something. That's a neat trick. The others have some fun effects, but they're mostly situational removal. You can read them if you want, but they aren't really important to the win condition. Mostly you just play these because you need to open with a rocket in hand to do your combos, and you don't want to run out of monsters if the duel becomes grindy. Anyway, the best rocket, at least in this version of the deck, is Explody Boy. If this is targeted by a Link monster, it explodes, dealing 2,000 damage to both players' life points. That's already a decent chunk, but if you have the appropriately themed barrel behind the door, then you can make your opponent take your half of the damage as well, removing 4,000 life points in one stroke. If your opponent used Solemn Judgment or Destrudo or something, that's just game. And if not, well, you know, it's still a lot of damage, and you just use your other burn cards, or fucking Boral Sword or something, finish the game that way. That's actually the kind of cool thing about this deck. You have your cheesy win condition, which is to summon a bunch of rockets, make a Link that can target those rockets, and then explode Exploder until your opponent explodes. But if that doesn't work, you still have a competent Link deck with some big boss monsters and a whole toolbox of varied removal effects at your disposal. As for how to swarm with the rockets so that you can get to your big Links, this is not too difficult when you have Tracer.
Cheers, love!
She isn't like the other rockets. She doesn't float around or get all tsundere when a Link monster pokes her. Instead, she's got a quick effect that lets you destroy a face-up card you control to summon any rocket from the deck. Doing this locks you into summoning only dark monsters for the rest of the turn, so you can't go into Cowboy or his scaly Link counterpart, but that's more than worth it. Because not only does this let you toolbox into any of the rockets you might want to use, but because it's a quickie that you can use on any card, you can chain it to spells and traps for added advantage. So like, summon Tracer, activate Quick Launch to summon a rocket from deck, then chain Tracer, targeting Quick Launch, destroying it so you can summon another rocket out of the deck, and then these 2 cards get you 3 monsters on the field. And that's just the start of your plays. From there, you can go into the other new card in this archetype, Striker Dragon. This is a Link 1 that can be made with any level 4 or lower dragon, which is pretty much all the rockets, and on summon, it searches the field spell, which lets you either summon 2 rockets from the hand, or summon rockets from your graveyard until you control as many monsters as your opponent does. Regardless of which effect you're using, this should let you easily get a 4th or even a 5th monster on the field, so you can make any of your big Link Chunguses. Boral Load and Boral Sword are the archetypal choices, though neither give you much in the way of interruption if you're going first, which you generally want to. It's usually better to summon this Unchained Abomination. At the end of each turn, you can target a card and destroy it, which means if you end on this and Exploderokket, you can blow it up at the end of the turn, deal 2,000, and then Exploder will summon another rocket from the deck. Usually you want to summon Tracer, because this thing has a second effect that says if a card is destroyed, you can target a card on the field and destroy it. It's basically destruction personified, so like, activating Tracer's effect to pop one of your own cards will also let you pop one of your opponent's cards, while also summoning an Exploderokket for the end of this turn, which it's a pretty neat combo. It's also worth mentioning that Nightmare, Unicorn, Underclock Taker, and Striker Dragon all have effects that let you target your own monsters as well. So even if you can't make your way up to the big boys, you can still trigger your rockets with one of these. Everything else in the extra deck is optional. Quad Boral can do some neat combos and stuff. Wee Witch boost your attack since the whole deck is dark. Delingerous helps extend combos and deal more burn damage. Cowboy and Agave deal even more burn damage. And then we've got a trio of level 8 synchros. Tracer, in addition to everything else, is also a level 4 tuner, so you can make any of these if you have her and any of your other level 4 monsters. You can also make them with Rokket Synchron. When this thing is normal summoned, you can special summon a level 5 or higher Dark Dragon from the graveyard. Exploder is a level 7 Dark Dragon, so, use these 2 to make level 8s for your big comeback play. You know what else is a level 7 Dark Dragon, though? Exploderokket Dragon. This thing is not a rocket technically, but it can be special summoned from the hand if you control a rocket, and if it's sent to the graveyard, you can search a rocket from your deck, which is why we play Foolish Burial and Dragon Shrine to send it to the graveyard. Opening with any of these 3 spells, or opening with Router and any other rocket, will get you into Tracer, which then gets you into everything. You can also, late game, you top deck one of these, send Absoluter, search Rokket Synchron, normal summon to get this back, make yourself a big level 8 synchro, or maybe a Link 2 if you really want that Underclock Taker. All that leaves then is the rest of the main deck, which is just tech cards we use to optimize the burn strategy. We're playing Blazing Mirror Force, which is pretty unexpected in the modern game, nice non-targeting removal with burn, in addition to Ceasfire, which is just straight up burn. This ban list veteran says if there are face-down monsters on the field, flip them up without activating their flip effects. Oh, also inflict 500 damage to your opponent for every monster on the field. So not only is this a powerful tool against the Shadal matchup, but it can easily deal 2,000 plus damage to close out games that are started by Exploderokket. You can also, chain Tracer to this thing's activation, get another monster on the field, and since the chain resolves backwards, you'll deal an additional 500 damage. It's pretty funny. Finally, we just got Squid Draw. This is a quick play that lets you destroy a rocket to draw 2 cards. In most versions of rockets, this is probably not worth playing since you need field presence more than you need hand advantage, but since our playstyle relies on a bunch of unsearchable trap cards, we need as much draw power as possible to get to them. If you want to play a more traditional rocket deck, just remove this along with these burn traps, and replace them with, generic hand traps, solemn cards, whatever staple cards people are using to counter the meta this week. That just leaves the side deck, as I said, mostly just other options. Ring of Destruction and Gravehole, both decent trap cards that can deal 2,000 or more damage, might be worth considering if you don't like Ceasfire or Mirror Force. If you don't want to burn, there's a whole lot of other powerful links you can put in here in place of the Gagas. Maybe even double up or triple up on some of your key players, you know what I'm saying? There's also a third Boral Dragon. Did you know that? It's true! No one plays it, but it exists. There's also a Link 5 boss monster, which I probably would play, but we have no idea when it's going to be released in America, and I try not to deal with hypothetical cards. Finally, I just want to take a moment to talk about this fucker. Fucking Speed Burst Dragon. When you take effect damage, special summon this card, inflict damage to your opponent equal to the damage you took, and then gain back half that damage. This thing seems like it was specifically made to combo with Exploderokket Dragon, since he, inflicts damage to both players, but no. Because of the way this effect is worded, and the way that Exploderokket works, Speed Burst misses the timing, completely nerfing Rokket Burn before it could even truly exist. Why, Konami? Why even dangle this in front of us if you were just going to make it useless with an archaic when? Just wanted to bring that up because a lot of people told me to use this, but sadly it doesn't work. Anyway, there's the deck. Like the video if you liked it, comment if there's any changes you would make, and subscribe if you want more strange deck profiles. I do one of these every other week. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, good luck and have fun.